Good evening, everyone. My name is Sophia Chata, and welcome to tonight's town hall. John Sandler and I are very excited to have as our special guest tonight, Committeewoman Joan Harris. And John, you have some exciting news of your own to share with us.
That's true. Thank you, Sophia. And hello, everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. You guys have heard in some of the earlier town halls that my wife and I are expecting, and we are thrilled to announce, or I'm thrilled to announce that we welcomed our daughter, Ellis Jordan, on August 26th, and she's home and she's healthy, and everyone is doing great. Trying to catch up on sleep or get some sleep where we can get it, but big sisters are having a great time, and Kelly and I are just thrilled with the baby. So if I am a little tired tonight or not too quick on the uptake, that's why. But it really is very exciting, and I'm so happy to share that news with everybody. And without further ado, we'd like to welcome Joan Harris tonight to our town hall. We've got some interesting talking points with her, and we'll be able to discuss a little bit about what's going on here in town, and hopefully it'll be informative. How are you, Joan?
I'm good, and I'm happy to be here, and congratulations. Believe it or not, I miss those days of lack of sleep. Not that I want to go back to them, but I do miss them. So enjoy, because it's a blink.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
You'll be heading off to college before you know it.
I better start saving then.
You better.
So I guess we'll just jump right in. One of the topics that we've discussed a number of times on our town halls is the initiative that was really started by you, which was the creation of this Human Rights Advisory Committee. And you drafted a resolution. It was a draft resolution, and it was brought by you before the whole township committee. Was that back in June, Joan?
I believe so.
I think it was June. And it was brought to a public work session for discussion. And it became evident at that first meeting very, very quickly that for one reason or another, the majority of the township committee was not inclined to act on the creation of a formal committee. There were concerns that a committee itself was too formal, and perhaps some coalition or some lesser formal group should be created. But what was most shocking to me at the time was that there was almost universal support from the town. I mean, 20 or 30 or more public comments. People spoke out in support. People wrote letters to the editor. It really seemed like a no-brainer to me. And the fact that there was a resistance by the township committee seemed pretty tone deaf, quite frankly. And then I frankly was pleased to hear that you were working with a committee person on some language and some framework that could be acceptable to everybody. And in fact, it would be a formal committee that was going to be created, and that you and another committee member were working on that framework. We haven't heard anything since then publicly. Just wanted to catch up with you and see if there is any news to share, if we're going down the path that's going to lead us to something meaningful, or if we're sort of at loggerheads.
So I've been working with John Carpenter on drafts, and we've exchanged a number of drafts. I think we're up to draft number 4. I'm hopeful that we're going to bridge the gaps where they exist. I am pleased that the committee, I believe the majority was in favor of having a forum rather than a formal committee. They did change their opinions, which is a good thing. There was another meeting where people came and presented what do you call that? Oh my gosh, I lost the words. A petition where 400 people signed their names in favor of this. So there is a lot of support, and frankly, it is a no-brainer. We need to value each other. We need to make each other feel included. So we have to recognize that we have a diverse community. There's differences. There's also things we share in common. And we just want to make sure that whatever biases we have, because we all have them, aren't infringing on someone else's right to practice their religion, practice freedom of speech, own a gun, any of those, constitutional amendments, and feel included in the community. So those are good goals. That's a good committee to have, and having a committee that's focused on that and can just kind of make an effort to see what kind of events or educational programs we might be able to present, just to make everyone feel included. If I'm taking too much time, just go like this. I was very moved by the young students that came. They were all high achievers. They all went to great schools, the first in their class. And despite these academic achievements, they said they didn't feel included. And that was a theme from our kids. And if we're not listening to our kids, we're doing a disservice to our community. So I really am hopeful that very soon there'll be a draft resolution on for a work session to invite public input and to eventually create this committee.
Joan, what would you say to those people that are asking, well, what exactly is a diversity committee going to do? What kinds of activities, or what are the actual things that are going to be done in this diversity committee? What would you say to those people?
Well, what I would say is it would be presumptuous for me to say what they're going to do, because hopefully we're going to get a good number of people on that committee who will speak to each other, maybe make some outreach in the community to see what residents want and then implement that. So I can talk broadly: education programs, community events. This committee would make recommendations to the township committee on how we can be an inclusive community and embrace our differences and the things we share in common.
Great.
Excellent, thank
So
you.
I wanted to ask you, what exactly is the Township Committee doing to support our local businesses during this time of COVID? Last year, I visited over 100 businesses in town, and a lot of business owners had concerns, which I'm sure are magnified now due to COVID-19. I proposed creating an economic development commission to try to stimulate the economy, to have things like a restaurant week, open mic night, outdoor shopping, outdoor dining, things of that nature. Has the Township Committee done anything to try to help business owners at all? Any of those things resonate with the Township Committee?
We have done some things. We have relaxed municipal ordinances that would have prohibited outside dining. So, if you go to any of the restaurants in town, you'll see they have, converted their parking lot into outdoor dining areas. So that, I have to say, was the biggest request that we received from small businesses. And we have, in fact, softened harsh ordinances that would prohibit that. The one thing I just had a discussion with someone earlier today, as trying as these COVID times are, if we are paying attention, we're going to learn some things that we might have thought were not good before, like outdoor dining. For whatever reason, the ordinance said you can't have, so many patrons, et cetera, outside. Whatever those conditions were, we know now that people are enjoying that, and it does help bring the community together. It does help keep them, the people close to the other surrounding stores. So I think we're going to learn a lot from this, and hopefully we can make some good changes that help support our local businesses, more permanent changes than we have right now, relaxing them.
Very nice. And, I guess we just opened last Friday for indoor dining. Have you heard at all about how that's gone? Have the local businesses has that worked out well?
I have not heard about that. I mean, I've spoken to some friends who still prefer to eat outdoors than in. So I guess it's good that there's an opportunity, if you prefer to eat inside, that you can do that now. With this, with the protocols in place to be as socially distanced as possible.
Quick story. I was actually getting my hair cut last weekend. I guess it was last weekend. Maybe it was last Friday at the South Findlay Barbershop. And it's on Findlay Ave, and you take a couple of steps down. And as I was getting my hair cut, we heard some bustling above us in the store above us. And the barber said to me, "Do you know what that is?" And I said, "No." And she said, "That's the sound I haven't heard in months. Those are people eating in Ridge Pizza at the indoor dining section of Ridge Pizza." And she said it used to, it was just noise that was always there, and she didn't realize she missed it till it was gone.
Oh, I know. It's not like I'd love to sit in a crowded restaurant, but I'm dying to sit in a crowded restaurant.
The things we used to despise, right? Waiting for your table to be ready.
Now, please pack me in.
Sure. The next question we have is from Pat S. And her question was geared towards how Bernards Township has been affected financially by lost revenue due to COVID-19. And the second part to her question was with respect to the HEROES Act, which is a more federally directed question. But from your perspective, Joan, how has Bernards Township been affected? And is it going to be more affected this year, or will we really feel the pinch more next year on the revenue loss?
Yeah, I think it's a to be determined. I would expect, for instance, I'm on the municipal committee, Municipal Alliance Committee. I'm the chair of that organization, and that's a committee devoted to the education and awareness of alcohol and drug abuse. And a substantial amount of that group's funding comes from the state or comes from the county. Those grants have drastically been cut. Now, the good news is right now we can't really do any of the events that we would do where we'd bring a lot of people into an indoor space and have a speaker or show a film. So we are actually looking into having virtual education programs. Now we're competing with the fact that we all have to do virtual everything now. And, there's a part of us that wonder, are people going to be just up to here with watching their screens? Or maybe this will give the opportunity to some people who maybe felt a little uncomfortable attending a program on mental health issues, maybe because of unfortunately the stigma that exists. And maybe this will give more of an opportunity for people to view it and not be concerned with that. So that's a to be determined. We're okay so far, but again, I think the governor just released his budget plan. So, if the federal government isn't providing funding, and that all trickles down, right? So we're going to be affected. So I would encourage everyone to call your representatives in Washington and tell them that we need the help.
Right. And we're fortunate enough to have Congressman Malinowski as our representative. And he was right at the forefront of the HEROES Act. And
yes,
that got through the House, and it hasn't been brought to the Senate floor. And this, to me, is just sort of an example that we say, local politics, local politics, local politics, but this is a big national issue that I think the residents of Bernards Township could be impacted by directly and all feel sort of the pinch from if we don't get any federal funding.
Right. And Tom Malinowski has a year under his belt, plus years spent in Washington. And he is a proven entity that he works across party lines. He did before he served as our congressional representative, but he continues to do that now with much success. So that's my plug for Tom Malinowski. Vote for Tom Malinowski.
I'll also plug that down the line.
Exactly.
Candidates. We had a recent, here's the next question from Linda Ness. Will the committee be scheduling an open Zoom meeting with JCPL to discuss JCPL plans for infrastructure and process improvements? We lose power for significant time periods, 5 days recently. So with the recent storm, it's quite a mess in terms of how long people lost power and why JCPL wasn't mobilized sooner. I mean, we know that we tend to have these problems with trees falling and et cetera, power outages. Why isn't JCPL more proactive? What are your thoughts on that? And what can the Township Committee do going forward to try to, as much as they can, prevent this from happening in the future?
Yeah, so, here's another COVID tale, right? We had a really bad storm in the middle of a pandemic. So I do have to say, you might suspect things didn't write themselves, wouldn't write themselves as quickly as normal. But what's our normal? There's certain areas in town that lose power with far lesser storms than this. This has been a problem. When we were on day 4 of not having power to the community, I got on the line with a JCPL representative early in the morning, used the power of Facebook to get the list of streets that were still out, communicated that directly to him. He relayed that information to the crews and they headed to the streets. I reached out to them afterwards and I said, once this is a little bit behind us and you're out of this storm and fixing, can we have a meeting? And honestly, I didn't hear right back from them, but I heard from them recently that they are in the process of scheduling meetings with, municipalities. So I think we just have to really stay on this. And because enough is enough. We need to stay on this. So I will keep following up. I expect that they're going to come to the Township Committee to answer questions. But I frankly think that we need to stay on this. So I plan to continue to talk and follow up with these gentlemen so that we can get some answers and some fixes so that we can understand why it is that certain parts of town lose power for days and not a significant storm. So that's what we need to do. I would be in favor of having a Zoom meeting so that people could attend, but I can also tell you that the meetings are broadcasted on YouTube, and Verizon provides us with an access channel. And so people can watch meetings that way. If you have a question or comment, you need to be present. So I would suggest if you feel the need to ask questions, but you cannot be there because maybe you're at high risk in these COVID times, that you communicate that in an email to the Township Committee and ask that this question be put to the JCPL or representative.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on that for a second because, COVID is a terrible thing, but like you said earlier, there are some things we can take away from it, some learning points. And when the Township Committee meetings were all virtual on Zoom, and I think even the first one when you came back live, the Township Committee was accepting public comment and questions by email to be submitted directly to the clerk. And I thought that was great. I thought there was a lot more community engagement. I thought people felt more comfortable submitting questions. And, you know, there are a lot of people that aren't yet comfortable leaving their houses because they might be compromised health-wise, or they might have childcare issues, or whatever the case may be. And I, for one, would be in favor of going back to allowing public comment and, via email. I think that you're sort of forcing people to choose between concerns of their health and participating in local government, and that puts people in a really terribly difficult situation. So my question is, what was the thought process behind doing away with allowing public comment to be submitted by email?
So my understanding is that, you know, people can always send us an email at any time and communicate with us, and we're happy to answer questions. I do think that there's something to be said that if you want to hear a discussion on a resolution and your question only arises from something that is discussed at the meeting, then it would be great to have an opportunity to ask your question. It's my recollection, and I could be wrong, but we didn't get that. We weren't bombarded with questions from the public by email. We weren't. You know,
when the advisory committee came up, we got the next number.
Right. Right. And, you know, the bigger issues are always going to attract more public participation. For example, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. We had as many people come in the middle of the pandemic, I might add, and make comment as were made during the quarry issue. So, you know, but those issues don't happen every week, right? They don't happen every week. So I don't, you know, I guess if it got to the point where we were hearing emails all night long repetitively, we might have to put some kind of boundaries around that. If your question was asked, we're not going to repeat it, etc. But that did not happen. So
the freeholders meetings, they take email questions. So, and there's not a tremendous amount of questions that come in by email.
Right. And I just think, you know, you want to invite participation, and you want to invite participation every way you can, right? So if someone can't come, particularly because they're at health risk of coming, I believe it's a reasonable option to give people to ask questions via email.
I agree.
Excellent. We had some more questions in terms of information and the accessibility of information on our website. Here pops up here another question from Linda regarding the local township budget, tax revenue by source, etc., and expenditures. Are they posted publicly somewhere? And if not, why not?
Okay, so I want to say some February, March, the CFO presents a budget, and all that information is contained in all the slides in his budget. And you can access that by going to the website, you could call and say, when was that presentation? Someone will give you that information. And then you can open up that and you find the whole presentation. We are in the middle of having our new website come in. It will, I think the first phase is approaching, and the new website has much more, I don't want to say capability of kind of collecting information and making it more accessible and easier to find. So I'm excited about that because I think that's long overdue.
Great. I guess, let's see. Oh, well, we have another question from Linda. Can the corona statistics for the township be posted in a visible place on Bernards.org and updated daily?
Okay, so the health department has published, I think, 42 alerts, and they can be found on the website. You sign up for an alert and it's in your inbox for as long as you want to keep it there. One thing that I have to really, I am on the Board of Health, and I know how hard that department, which is a small department, has been working on these issues. So keep in mind that our Board of Health, or our health office, manages several different municipalities. So they are responsible to compile all that data for several different towns, to do contact tracing. When I tell you they're working around the clock, they're working around the clock. Again, I'm going to hop back to what I said before. You learn things during a pandemic on how to do things differently, more efficiently. And I believe when this new website, I think the Board of Health is a separate, is in phase 2, but it will be much easier to grab that information, but it is available. And if anybody can't find it, please shoot me an email, give me a call. I'm happy to help you out.
That's a very nice comment at the bottom. I don't know that we need to read
nice.
it, but thank you very much, Samuel.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, we have a question from Steve Glickman. When the website and other township systems were hijacked by ransomware, we were told which systems were not impacted, but we weren't told exactly which were. Can you tell us which systems were impacted by the ransomware?
Okay, so I'm not an IT person by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to give you the answer for dummies, and I'm the dummy. Okay, so the answer by a dummy on tech issues. The part of the website that would take in financial information or any personal information was not reached at all. And that's because it wasn't on our site. When you click to pay a bill or sign up for a course or put whatever information that you would input into it, you're transferred to another server, another secure site. So all our financial information, any private information, were already transferred to a better system that protected that. That was not hacked. The other parts, like, you couldn't get to the home page, you couldn't get to the Board of Health page. They were all brought back. So I want to say they were down for the time that this attack took place. And when we had consultants and people come in to examine and go through things, but we have recovered everything. And again, any part of the site where any personal information was inputted was not disturbed, was not attacked.
Great.
Thank you. I do think that's about all the time we have. It's always great. What was that?
Thank you for joining us tonight, Joan.
And I'm going to give you a quick plug. We need to elect Jon and Sophia to the Township Committee. We need a balanced committee with people with various backgrounds, different point of views, because when you bring such a group together, you make better decisions. So the best decision for Bernards Township is Chad Sandler. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's the best note we can end on. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you, Joan.
Good night.